Good day. Today's lecture is devoted to preparing a teacher for a training session. This topic is especially important because the effectiveness of teaching depends not only on subject knowledge, but also on the quality of pedagogical preparation that precedes classroom work. In other words, successful instruction is rarely spontaneous. On the contrary, it is usually the result of systematic planning, methodological reflection, and professional self-discipline. Therefore, the study of lesson preparation is essential for every future teacher. At the outset, the lecture defines two principal goals. First, it aims to explain the 4 stages of preparing a teacher for a training session and for speaking before an audience. Second, it seeks to help future teachers understand how effective techniques may be applied in order to conduct a successful and well-structured lesson. Accordingly, the lecture combines theoretical explanation with practical orientation. It is concerned not only with what preparation means in principle, but also with how it should be carried out in actual pedagogical work. This slide presents the broader pedagogical framework of the topic. The theoretical significance of lesson preparation lies in the integration of 3 dimensions: subject knowledge, methodological skills, and psychological readiness. Together, these dimensions ensure that teaching is accurate in content, effective in organization, and balanced in communication. The slide also emphasizes the pedagogical importance of preparation. A lesson is effective not only because the teacher knows the material, but because the teacher is able to design, manage, and implement the learning process in a coherent way. From a modern pedagogical perspective, preparation is understood as a continuous and goal-oriented process involving curriculum analysis, instructional design, anticipation of difficulties, and alignment of methods with objectives. Therefore, preparation must be seen as a professional system rather than as a preliminary formality. The conceptual framework presented here is associated with a M. Stolyarenko. According to this view, approximately 80% of teaching effectiveness depends on prior independent preparation, while only 20% depends on immediate pre-lesson readiness. This proportion is methodologically revealing. It demonstrates that high-quality teaching is rooted primarily in advanced preparation rather than in last-minute adjustment. Consequently, professional discipline before the lesson becomes one of the decisive conditions of pedagogical success. The teacher's classroom performance is important, however, it is largely shaped by the quality of work done beforehand. The first stage is planning, which the presentation rightly describes as the initial and most significant stage of preparation. At this point, the teacher analyzes educational standards, curriculum requirements, and methodological resources. On this basis, instructional, developmental, and upbringing objectives are formulated, while the general structure of the lesson and the main pedagogical strategies are determined. Thus, planning provides the foundation upon which all later stages depend. Without clear objectives and a well-considered structure, subsequent preparation loses direction and internal coherence. The next step extends planning by focusing on the learners themselves. Here, the teacher forecasts students' cognitive needs, possible misunderstandings, and expected learning outcomes. In addition, strategies for motivation, interaction, and classroom management are designed in advance. This stage is particularly important because it introduces a learner-centered perspective into preparation. The lesson is not built solely around content. Rather, it is built around the meeting point between content and student readiness. Therefore, forecasting helps the teacher anticipate difficulty before it becomes a classroom obstacle. The second major stage is operational preparation. At this point, the teacher turns from general planning to the practical organization of the lesson. Educational content is selected, arranged, and structured according to the student's level, while logical sequencing and methodological appropriateness are carefully maintained. In this regard, operational preparation transforms the lesson plan into a workable instructional design. It ensures that the material is not only pedagogically correct in principle, but also teachable in practice. This slide draws attention to pedagogical behavior as part of preparation. 3 aspects are highlighted: communicative clarity, the use of digital resources, and classroom presence. Communicative clarity concerns speech, tone, intonation, and professional expressiveness. Digital resources involve the preparation of exercises, tasks, and technological support. Classroom presence includes non-verbal cues and the general organizational flow of the session. This is an important reminder that preparation is not limited to written planning. It also includes the teacher's manner of presentation, behavior, and professional presence in front of students. The third stage is editing and refinement. The slide presents several criteria for this process: logical coherence, time allocation, redundancy check, and methodological validity. The teacher must verify the links between lesson segments, calculate the time required for each activity, eliminate non-essential material, and ensure that chosen methods correspond to the intended learning objectives. Accordingly, refinement is the stage at which preparation becomes more exact. The teacher reviews the lesson critically in order to improve clarity, efficiency, and validity. In this sense, editing is not cosmetic. It is a substantial pedagogical necessity. The fourth stage is rehearsal. Here, the teacher mentally or verbally simulates the lesson, practices explanations, anticipates student responses, and refines the manner of instructional delivery. This stage is especially valuable because it increases confidence, reduces anxiety, and improves pedagogical fluency. Therefore, rehearsal serves as a bridge between preparation on paper and performance in the classroom. It allows the teacher to test the lesson internally before implementing it externally. The slide summarizes preparation through a concise sequence: analysis, selection, development, refinement, and review. This sequence is pedagogically significant because it captures the logic of professional preparation as a multi-stage process rather than a single act. Each component performs a distinct role. Analysis clarifies conditions and aims. Selection determines content and methods. Development gives the lesson operational form. Refinement improves quality, and review ensures final coherence. Consequently, preparation becomes a technology in the precise sense of the word, a structured and purposeful system of pedagogical action. The conclusion of the lecture states the central idea. With clarity, teacher preparation is a multidimensional and strategically important process that determines the overall effectiveness of instruction. It requires systematic planning, methodological competence, reflective practice, and continuous professional development. Thus, successful teaching should be understood as the result of deliberate and well-structured preparation rather than spontaneous performance. This is perhaps the most important methodological conclusion of the lecture as a whole. Thank you for your attention. I hope this lecture has clarified the main stages of preparing a teacher for a training session and has shown why systematic preparation remains one of the key conditions of effective pedagogical work.